And how did you get through the day? Just constant coffee, matcha?
Yeah.
What did you do?
The one thing I love, well, one of the things I love about Japan is, they have vending machines everywhere, and they even have hot drinks inside a lot of them. So you can get a hot drink from the vending machine, hot coffee. So I was, you know, downing them all day. And I think I just spent most of the day on the trains going to a different city. So it, I could sit down, I could chill. I wasn't too bad, but yeah, fortunately, I didn't have too many like interactions to deal with because I think that's the worst part when you're knackered, right? You've got to talk with someone, especially in a new language.
Hello, 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 and welcome back once again to another British English conversation with a fantastic guest that I'm sure you recognize and you'll have seen on the channel as well. But it's been a while, it's been ages, or it's been donkey's years if you want to use a nice bit of creative, slightly old fashioned British English slang phrase. But anyway, let's get to it. Michael, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's great to talk with you. And it's funny you mentioned donkey's years because I think if I remember correctly, the last time we spoke on my podcast was 2022. And you also mentioned that same phrase there. I remember quite distinctly. So
Okay.
maybe that's a favorite of yours.
What an amazing memory you have. Because sometimes students will tell me, like, Lewis, how did you remember that I told you that I was going to a Mexican restaurant? I'm like, I don't know. Some things stick and other
Yeah, yeah.
things don't. But donkey's years, I kind of like the phrase, even though it's not that commonly used in normal chit chats with other native speakers. Of course, you can use it, you'll impress people. It's very creative and interesting, but you're not going to be walking along the street in London and then hear everybody being like, oh, it's been donkey's years. Usually, it'd just be like, long time no see. Oh, it's
Mhm.
been ages. How are you? What's new? How's life? And so on and so forth.
Yeah, I feel like I do hear it maybe from like older people perhaps in my area, but yeah, not all the time as you said. Um, but
Now,
yeah.
I also remember something from the first time that we got together and I was a guest on your podcast. In fact, I remember it like it was yesterday because I was back in Seville and I was at the time of recording at my parents in law's house, which, it's a traditional Spanish apartment. There wasn't a lot of natural light. And I remember us speaking about maybe habits or something similar. And I remember distinctly the phrase to turn over a new leaf. It's
Hmm, hmm.
just come back to me now. So I remember going over this expression and being like, yeah, now I want to turn over a new leaf. But remind everybody, Michael, what does it mean to turn over a new leaf?
I think this is a phrase we can use when you make a fresh start in life. I don't know why this example just popped to my head. I don't have any personal experience of this, but imagine you just come out of prison. You've done a lot of bad things before, and now you're like, you know what? I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm not going to commit any more crimes. I'm going to be a good person and abide by the law. So you're starting a new life, uh, and not getting arrested. You're turning over a new leaf.
Great, fantastic example. I wasn't expecting it. I was thinking maybe that you're a bit lazy with your family and you never try and get in touch with them, you never call them. But then a nephew or a niece is born and you say, oh, I really want to try harder with my family now. I'm going to turn over a new leaf and call them every single day.
That's a much more useful example for sure.
But hey, maybe somebody watching this has been in prison and now they do want to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. It could be useful.
Things happen, anything could happen. But now, given that we haven't got together for a while, could you kind of summarize your last year? What have you been up to during the last, I don't know, 9 months, 12 months? What's new?
Interesting question. Time has both gone quickly and slowly. Uh, it seems to have flown by. I've done a lot, and yet I can't think of what I've done. But I do know that last time we spoke, I was living in London. Now I'm
Mm.
living in Thailand. So that was a big change. That was more than a year ago, but that was a big change. In the last year, I guess I've done a little bit of traveling. That's been a bit of a focus of mine this year. Been to Japan a couple times, a few countries around Asia. And apart from that, I've just been really focused on my work and my platform, Level Up English podcast. Um, the past few months, I've been very, what can we say? Just very focused on that. Very, working hard on that project.
Hmm. Perfect. So you've been knuckling down, you've been grinding, you've been
Yeah,
burning the midnight oil, working long, long nights to keep improving your podcast.
you read my mind exactly. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of it, but that's what I wanted to say exactly. Yeah, knuckling down.
Excellent. Perfect. And tell me a little bit more about Japan, because last night I was watching this kind of weird program, which is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. And it's called Physical 100 Asia.
Mhm.
And it's where you have people from different sports, different disciplines doing random physical challenges to see who is stronger, faster, has better resistance. And there's a Japanese team that is participating as well. And whilst I was speaking to my fiance, I was like, they're all so polite and smiley and nice. And this is, I think, the overriding stereotype of Japan and Japanese people, that everybody's just so lovely.
Mhm.
Was
Yeah.
that your impression?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that's one of the things I like about Japan is that people are very respectful, and if you're like I mean, there's different types of British people, right? But I think the stereotype is, the gentleman, that kind of posh, polite, always saying sorry. I mean, if you're that kind of British person, I feel like you could fit in quite well in Japan
Mhm.
because people really put a lot of attention into how much space they're taking up, and they don't want to take up your time. So things like that, I really appreciate. So yeah, I think it's true. I think it's true for the most part. Have you been to Japan before, or do you plan to?
I haven't been yet, but I do plan to. And in about a year, I'll be going on my honeymoon because
Oh,
we're
nice.
getting married in October next year. And we're still weighing up the different options. So we're still kind of considering different destinations. And we're thinking either South America or Asia.
Mm,
So we could maybe go to Japan. We could maybe go to like Vietnam or to the Philippines. We want to go somewhere cool. Maybe not your typical place where you'd go on a honeymoon, like the Maldives, for example. And we want to go to a big country where we could go for 3 weeks maybe and see a few different places. So Japan is definitely an option. And I know the currency hasn't been the strongest recently. So
mhm.
it's kind of a little bit cheaper for people who get paid in pounds, euros, dollars. So that's an option, but I'm not sure yet. We've got a lot of talking and decision making to do.
Very exciting, though. Really exciting. I'm a big advocate, a big fan of going somewhere a little bit unusual. Not those typical, Hawaii or Maldives, like you said. I think somewhere a bit different is exciting.
Exactly. We will see. We will see. Now,
Mm.
anyway, we got started by going over a nice old fashioned British English slang word, which was donkey's years. And for today's conversation, we're going to take it in turns to ask each other a different conversation question, each including some British English slang. Some of them will be common, others less common. So let's play it by ear, go with the flow, and keep speaking as much as possible. And you can see I'm forcing myself to use so many different expressions. I'm going to explode any second.
I'm going to be so annoyed because what I often do is I highlight all of the expressions used in every episode I record. And with you, I'm going to have to. Here's another one. I've got my work cut out for me. I'm going to have a lot to do.
Exactly. And the work keeps piling up. It keeps building up. You see, this is why I do go for a very minimalist editing style because I'm like,
Mm,
I just can't. I can't handle it. I can't hack it.
can't
But
hack it. Yeah.
let's kick off then. And yeah, here we've got a list of different conversation questions. And I'm going to ask you the first one, which is literally the first question. So, when was the last time that you were absolutely knackered, absolutely shattered, exhausted, and what caused it?
Yeah, fantastic. So, do you think we should just keep talking, or should we talk about these possible new words before? Or how do you think is best to go about this?
Um, I think just using synonyms at the same time is absolutely perfect.
Mm,
So, when was the last time that you were knackered, you were shattered, you were exhausted, you were extremely tired?
yeah, perfect,
Oh,
fantastic. So, actually, the first thing that came to mind is maybe very appropriate because this was in Japan a couple weeks ago. Um, because for some reason, the only flights that I can find that go from where I live to Japan leave at midnight, like exactly midnight, and it takes like 5 hours to get there. So you arrive 5 in the morning, leave the airport 6 or something like that. So I'm quite a nervous flyer. I get a bit scared. I can't sleep. I can't relax on a plane. So I'm like wired, which means very awake for the whole flight. So I didn't get any sleep. I basically, too many expressions now, but I pulled an all nighter. I stayed
mhm.
up all night. And yeah, I love being in Japan, but it's still a challenge when you're walking around. It's a new city, a new place. You haven't had any sleep, and you're like, I can't check into my hotel for another 9 hours. What do I do?
Oh,
So I was knackered, but uh, overall, it was worth it. I think it was worth it.
okay. And how did you get through the day? Just constant coffee, matcha?
Yeah.
What did you do?
The one thing I love, well, one of the things I love about Japan is they have vending machines everywhere, and they even have hot drinks inside a lot of them. So you can get a hot drink from the vending machine, hot coffee. So I was you know downing them all day. And I think I just spent most of the day on the trains going to a different city. So it, I could sit down, I could chill. I wasn't too bad, but yeah, fortunately, I didn't have too many like interactions to deal with because I think that's the worst part when you're knackered, right? You've got to talk with someone, especially in a new language.
Yeah, it's tough. I agree. Now, something that you said was related to being wired, you couldn't sleep, you pulled an all nighter, and this is partly because you're not a very comfortable flyer. Maybe you're a little bit afraid of flying, and
Mm,
this kind of affects me as well a little bit, partly because of my mum. My mum is absolutely terrified of flying. And what she'd always do to be able to, I don't know, get the courage to get on a plane to travel somewhere else was, well, have a few glasses of wine at the airport. And then she'd manage to stay a little bit calmer and would be able to fly to Spain. So it'd be 2 hours, 3 hours, nothing major, but she would need a little bit of Dutch courage. Another lovely expression. Dutch courage is basically the courage that you get from drinking alcohol in order to do something that maybe you feel a little bit nervous about. So, have you ever used a similar tactic in order to get through a long flight?
I never have, honestly. I've never actually considered it, but my main concern is I've heard a lot about jet lag and tiredness from sleeping, and when you add alcohol into the mix, I've heard it can exacerbate. It can make the problem much worse. So I haven't tried it. I mean, maybe I will if it gets serious, but
Mhm.
I'm still kind of waiting for maybe I can solve the problem in another way, meditation or therapy or something. But I don't know if we'll get there.
I mean, it sounds like a better way of doing things. And by the way, I don't recommend anybody using alcohol to get through your problems. But, just my mum did it. Perfect. All right. Now let's go back to the questions. And now it's your turn. So you can pick a question and ask me.
Okay. I think I'll just go with this next one here because I like the sound of this one, and I get to learn a bit more about the kind of people you hang out with.
Hmm.
Do you know anyone who's a bit dodgy, a bit sketchy, maybe dangerous, or at least it seems like it, and why?
Perfect. So, dodgy, love this adjective, and it's really, really common as well. And it can be used to describe people if they are a bit sketchy, a bit dangerous, a bit like maybe unreliable almost, but also
Mm.
for places. You could have a dodgy neighborhood, or maybe you could buy a product that doesn't work very well, and it can also be dodgy. So, it's quite a versatile adjective. But when referring to people, I I probably have quite a few dodgy friends. Or at least people who might seem to be dodgy at the beginning. And I'd say my first friend in life, and one of my best friends to this date, his name is Jack, and he's a bit of a dodgy guy. And you see, he's dodgy in a lovable way, but maybe the first time you meet him, you might think that he's a bit rough around the edges, and he's very kind of sarcastic and ironic as well. So when he's meeting other people, he'll make jokes that maybe other people won't realize are jokes. And maybe he'll like tap them on the back in what he would think is a very friendly way, but other people might be a little bit intimidated by it. So Jack can be a bit dodgy and he might look a little bit dodgy as well. But he's lovely, and that's almost a message to everybody that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover because there might be many people who you'd meet who are completely covered in tattoos. Maybe they've got teeth missing. Maybe they've got a black eye at that moment. But then when you actually get to know them and speak to them, it's like, you're not dodgy at all. There was no reason to be intimidated of you. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
a nice little life message. Do not judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, I think it's a good lesson to learn, and I wonder if it's common. You know, growing up in the UK, you do meet a lot of dodgy characters, but I think a lot of them, as you said, are big softies. You know, that maybe they look a bit dodgy, and that helps protect them from the danger of the streets. But you know, really, they're nice people.
Exactly. And related to that, in fact, when I last went to London earlier this year, we went to a really nice pub. It was in quite a posh area as well. We had a delicious Sunday roast. And the guy who was serving us was fully covered in tattoos, head to toe. And I've got nothing against tattoos. I think they look quite nice sometimes. I personally don't have any, but he was literally covered. So all of his face was like black, neck, everywhere. For me, a little bit over the top, a bit much. But that appearance usually makes you think, oh, this guy might be a bit dodgy. And then he came over with a huge smile and he was absolutely adorable and lovely. So when we were ordering, he was like making jokes, having a laugh. So it's another example of why we shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, nice. I wonder if often people do that because they maybe understand they might look a bit scary, a bit dodgy, so they're trying to compensate by being nicer. I feel like I've seen that before. I feel like that's a thing.
Exactly. They might be aware and they want to put you
Yeah.
at ease. To
Yeah.
like, listen, guys, there's no reason to be afraid of me. Okay, cool. Now another one. Let me have a look and let me pick a question. Well, we'll continue in that order. Have you ever had to queue for ages? And if so, what were you waiting for? What was the last moment when you had to queue for ages?
Very British question. I guess there's not really an expression here, is there? But very
Well,
British topic. Um, yeah, we love to queue, and it does annoy me when people don't like to queue in other countries. Uh, I think it's the most annoying thing that a British person can experience abroad. I'm sure you have some experience of that. Um, yeah, I can't think of like a really good example. Um, I mean, very often, I mean, this is a huge thing in Asia. I think, especially in Japan. Let's go back to the Japan topic again. But I think in China and other countries as well, uh, they're willing to queue for a long time for a good restaurant. I
Hmm.
feel like in the UK or maybe the West in general, it's a bit different. If there's a big queue, we'll be, let's go somewhere else then, it's too busy. But I've seen many places in Bangkok, in Japan, where there's like a queue of maybe 50 people right down the street for like this tiny little restaurant serving noodles or something. And I mean, maybe this is a very British reaction, but I just feel like I wouldn't be able to enjoy them because, even after waiting and I got in there, I'd be so anxious. Like, I know people are waiting for me, so I couldn't take my time because I can see them in the window, waiting for me to be done. Um, so I've never queued for anything like that. The only thing I can really think of is where I have to queue. And again, it's kind of a boring example, but airports. I think most airports I've been to are very unorganized. The organized ones are the exception.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's very common that you'll have to wait an hour, even in some places, to get to the border control and give your passport. And yeah, it's just like the worst thing after a long flight. Yeah, that's my example, I think.
Like, oh, you're just making me think like, "Oh, I really don't want to have to queue up for anything anytime soon." And I think queuing is very important when you're gonna like order something or buy something. So if you're in a shop, you're not gonna like jump the queue. It's rude, it's impolite. And as well, if you're in a bar and you're trying to get served, this is when it does annoy me a little bit, where I'll be patiently waiting and, I respect the order at which people arrived in the bar, so then I'll be waiting, see if I can get a little bit of eye contact. And then if somebody else comes up and goes straight away and then directly starts speaking, it's like, oh, can I have this? I'm like, excuse me? Did you not
Yeah.
see I was waiting here? And this can happen not too often, but it's a regular occurrence, and it pisses me off. It annoys me, and maybe I'm
Boils your
too.
blood.
It boils my blood. It gets my goat. It pisses me off, and I'm like, couldn't you see I was waiting? Like, but it's not, I guess, mandatory in all cultures and countries. In Spain or maybe other places, it's more normal to go up to a bar and say, "Hey, can I have this?"
Mhm.
And not in a rude way, but it's rude to us, or at least to me, if I've been waiting. I'm like, come on, didn't you see me? I was waiting.
Yeah, I think this is a very important lesson for like British pub etiquette, like knowing even though people don't queue, there is like a mental queue. Like everyone's aware of who was there first, who's been waiting
Mhm.
longer, and I think any good bartender will know that they will remember who got there first, and they will say, "Hang on a minute, sir. This person was here before you." So hopefully that they'll be aware of you and they'll say that, but it's not always possible, I guess.
And the other thing is just queuing up at the airport. Oh, it's horrible. Like, you've got to do it. You've got to get through it. And luckily, by listening to podcasts, then time flies a little bit better. And then you're
Yeah.
not as aware of how much time you have to wait. But it reminds me now because I'm flying back home for my nephew's birthday this weekend. And it's frustrating because it's only 1 hour flight from Brussels to Manchester, but I've always got to queue up, arrive in advance. You've got to get the bus or you've got to get the train. You've got to go through all of these different steps just for 1 hour in the air.
So frustrating. It's so unorganized. And actually, it reminds me of earlier this year, I had a very frustrating queuing experience because I was in the airport, coming back to Thailand, waiting to come in. And I think one issue might be a cultural thing. Like, as you said, um, different cultures have different uh, levels of what personal space is comfortable.
Uh
I
huh.
feel like Brits on the larger end. I don't know if you would agree. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
if
I
there's a
agree.
scale, I think we need more personal space than more than 50% of the countries in the world. That would be my guess. So more often than not, people are standing too close behind me. But the worst one was a guy, this is, I'm not judging him for this, of course, but he was a bit overweight and he was standing so close behind me that his stomach was like touching my back. And I felt so uncomfortable after a long flight. I don't want like some sweaty man touching me. Um, and I don't know, I'm in a bad mood. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this. So rather than using my words or asking politely, I just like abruptly turned around, not to look at him, but just like to look at something else. And my bag like hit him as I did it, which was my intention. I wanted to like let him know that I wasn't happy or he was too close. And then he kind of like backed off and apologized and said sorry. Yeah, I was so mad. Maybe it was too much.
I know what you mean. I can relate to it with the personal space kind of issue. Like, I don't like to feel like people are very, very close to me, even if it's with friends. Like, even if I'm hanging out with friends and I don't know, out at somebody's house, if they're really, really close to me, I can't help but feel a little bit awkward. And I
Yeah.
think this must be a British thing. And I'm sure there are other countries who have a shared, let's say, hatred towards being really, really up close and personal with other people. Or maybe we're just awkward people. Who knows?
That's very true. Very likely. I mean, very likely.
It's probably that as well. But no, I know what you mean. Cool.
Mm,
All right. Let's move on to another question then. I'll share
yeah.
my screen once again. And,
Is it
Michael, over
my
to you.
turn?
Yeah, your
Yeah,
turn.
I lost track of it. I mean, I think I really enjoyed that one. Um, so uh, I want to find a good one. I might skip a few if that's okay.
Be my guest. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I like this one. I like this one. I think this is a common phrase. When was the last time something went pear shaped, and how did you handle it? Something went wrong. Something didn't go to plan in some maybe chaotic way, perhaps.
Yeah, so to go pear-shaped. Oh, it's gone wrong. Let me think. Let me think. When was the last time something went pear-shaped? Because I would like to think that when I try and do things, it goes well, but obviously that's not always the case, and it's not always the scenario. But, hmm, it's tricky to think. I could say that, well, a simple example, but I don't know if you were aware, but a couple of weeks ago, AWS went down, which is the Amazon Web Services platform, which is basically the cloud computing service to keep all of the websites online, make sure they're functioning. It's something along those lines. And when this was happening, I was in the middle of a class and it was a group class as well. So it was me and three or four other people and it was all going well. But then when I clicked to exit the class, my website went down. So I still had another 3 lessons after that. And I was like panicking, like, what am I going to do? What's happening? I'm powerless. And I genuinely did feel the kind of feeling when your Wi-Fi goes down and you haven't got any connection. And because of the world we live in at the moment, literally our jobs are, I'd say 100% dependent on having a laptop, Wi-Fi, and in this situation, AWS as well, which of course doesn't support all websites, but it does support the vast majority. So when this happened, I was like, what do I do? I'm powerless. I can't do anything. And I literally couldn't do anything about it. So it wasn't my fault, of course, but my classes for that day went pear-shaped, really, because I taught 1 out of 4, and then I just had to sit there kind of twiddling my thumbs, refreshing the page and hoping that it'd work. But in the end, I gave up and said, all right, well, it is what it is. It's not my fault. Hopefully my students are aware, and touch wood, it doesn't happen again. So yeah, my classes that afternoon went pear-shaped.
Fantastic example. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was affected by that, but I did hear about it, and it really makes you, as you said, it makes you scared. And you feel very almost vulnerable, like when you realize, there's only one or two companies that really your kind of business depends on. Like, you might be using lots of different software and platforms to do the work that you do, whatever job you have. But I think ultimately there's only one or two that have to go down to like ruin everything. Um, and I've often thought about that, and it's quite scary. I guess it could be a lesson in making backups or alternative plans for when things don't work or files get corrupted. But I feel like it's impossible to cover every base, every situation, isn't it?
Exactly. I even think about it with like videos as well. Like, of course, people always say you need to build up an email list and all of these things to not be completely vulnerable to YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And I do that a little bit, but not that much because I just kind of take for granted that all of these big corporations will always be there and always be safe. But this was a little reminder that maybe that's not always the case. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it is kind of scary. It's kind of scary. I guess diversifying is a great term. Like, if you do run your own business or something, you can find different ways to make money and different ways to work. So you're not dependent on just one area. But yeah, I'm curious. So after that problem, did you do anything? I don't know if you can do anything, but did you do anything to make sure it wouldn't happen again? Like, if it happened again, you would have a backup? Or are you just hoping it doesn't happen?
I'm just crossing my fingers. But no, I mean, the only thing I did after that was message the students who were affected, saying, like, sorry, you might have noticed this was on the news, that it seems to have affected me as well. So I wasn't able to access the platform. And I just basically said sorry and crossed my fingers and said, I'm sure, hopefully, it'll never happen again. And
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. I like to see the glass half full. So, let's hope it never happens again.
I see.
Uh,
I'm sure your students were understanding as well.
of course. That was great, by the way. I didn't plan on actually having drunk off of the glass, but it is half full
um,
or
I
half
think
empty.
yeah, it looks a bit half empty to me. I would say. I don't know.
Oh, really? Are you that kind of guy? Are you more of a pessimist?
I'm not really. I'm not. I'm just teasing. But yeah, very, very, very good prop that you prepared there.
Exactly. Okay, let's do a couple more then. And now it's my turn to ask
Mhm.
you a question. And I might skip a few as well. And I'm actually going to pick this one. Given that we were speaking about maybe feeling a bit awkward with strangers if they're invading your personal space, do you ever have a chin wag, a chat with strangers, or do you try to keep yourself to yourself?
I'm really glad you asked me this one. I was hoping you would because I do have a good answer. But yeah, chinwag's a nice expression because you can almost imagine like just like the tail of a dog wags, your
Mm.
chin is wagging when you're talking. So it kind of makes sense if you think about it. And I mean, living here, I don't really have many opportunities to have a chin wag, a chat with people because I am trying to learn Thai, but I'm far from good enough to, have small talk with people.
Mhm.
So occasionally I'll meet someone who speaks English and, we'll have a nice chat. But honestly, it's one of the things I miss most. I get most homesick about England is just small talk. I think British people love small talk about the weather, about anything. I went back in the summer, and I was chin wagging with everyone. I was just chatting. I was riding my bike in the countryside. An old man who's gardening like says hello, and then we stop to chat for a while. And I
Okay.
think I didn't used to be like that, but because I've missed it so much, I was like soaking it all in and chatting with everyone. And yeah, I think that's part of British culture that I really miss. And uh, what can I say? I'm quite proud of maybe the chattiness with strangers, even about kind of mundane topics.
Great. I mean, the weather is always a very, very universal topic of small talk, and it's like, oh, it's lovely and sunny today. Should probably go outside. Or then it's like, oh, It's raining again. Typical, you know. In an hour, I'm sure it'll be sunny again. And you'll have these little interactions that I think I do quite a lot with students again. But like, I do that other thing, which is quite common in the countryside. If you're going for a walk in the countryside and you kind of cross paths with somebody else or a couple of other people, I won't necessarily have a chat with them, but I will always kind of do that action where you kind of, uh,
Nod your head. Yeah.
yeah, you like nod your head back almost. And at the same time, it's usually accompanied by, all right, or all right, mate. I was like, how you doing? Like, what's up? Have a good day. And I won't stop and actually ask them anything, but I'll try to make a point of being like, all right, morning,
It's
afternoon.
nice. I think it's those little interactions that can, I wouldn't say make your day, but if you add them all up, I think it does make a difference in your, how much happiness you had in the day. It's much better than everyone ignoring you, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
I, I did just think of actually a really good example of a chinwag I had. It was when I was in Newport in Wales, and I was about to catch the bus back to London or back to Heathrow to get the plane to Thailand. And I think this was a lesson in maybe wearing or accessorizing in interesting ways. If you wear interesting clothes or have some kind of funny thing on your clothes, it makes you more approachable
Mhm.
and people can use it as an icebreaker to start a conversation. So I had a bag with the Thailand flag on it. And this man at this random bus stop in Wales just said, "Oh, you live in Thailand, do you?" And I was like, "Yes. How did you know?" And it turns out he also has lived in Bangkok in the same city for like 20 years. And we were chatting about different neighborhoods and where he works, what he's up to, why he's in Wales, and all this kind of stuff. Total like coincidence. Like I can't believe I met someone who lives there just at a random bus stop. But that was a good example of maybe the last chinwag I had before I came back.
Exactly. A meaningful one as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the
It's
classic
nice.
thing where you'd be like, oh, what a small world, you know, what a
Yes.
coincidence. And then if there is such a coincidence like that, it's much easier to be able to have a chat, have a chin wag, because of course, if you've got nothing in common, then it's not going to go very far. You might have a chat about the weather, you might complain about something and then share that complaint together. But if you don't actually have anything in common, it's hard to keep the conversation going. And it's hard personally to have the motivation to want to keep asking questions. If I'm
Hmm.
like, mate, we've got nothing in common. Let me just put my earphones back in.
Do you like football? Nope. Travel?
All
Nope.
right, see you later then. Awesome. All right, let's move on and do one final question and then we will wrap it up. So, Michael, no pressure, but you have the choice of
Hmm.
this question.
Quite a few here to choose from. So let me have a quick look. I'll try to make the last one a good one.
No
Uh,
pressure, no pressure.
uh, I uh, I think I'll go with this one because again, we're learning about you and your character, and maybe you have some secrets to share. Who knows?
Uh huh.
Um, do you think you're more of a laid back person, or do you get in a right strop sometimes? What's a strop? Grumpiness. Uh, what other synonyms can you think of for strop?
It's
Irritated.
like when you're in a bad mood, basically, because a strop as a noun is like a bad mood, a grumpy period, and we can also use it as an adjective and say stroppy. You could say he's a really stroppy guy, which is a grumpy guy, or a
Yeah.
moody guy, which is kind of the opposite to being a laid back person, which is an easygoing person or a chilled person, you know, somebody who's quite laid back. They're quite easygoing.
Yeah. So,
So,
so I wanted to ask you this because you seem like a very easygoing person, but I really want to know if you do sometimes get in a strop and why. if you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say on the whole, I am very easygoing. I'm very laid back in terms of like not getting angry. So I very, very rarely get angry. And my life philosophy in many ways is just like, you do you, live and let live. Like, I think it's a nice way of living. And what other people are doing isn't usually going to affect me. Um, and like, even when it comes to like bad news, I'm quite good at putting everything into context and putting everything into perspective and thinking, well, it's not the end of the world. If it's out of my hands and out of my control, then I'm not going to get stroppy about it. And yeah, I'd say that usually if people ask me things, I'm quite laid back. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you choose. I don't mind if people are organizing different plans. I'll usually say, like, whatever you prefer. I don't mind, I'm easy. It's up to you. So, yeah, I'd say that I am quite laid back and quite easygoing most of the time. Of course, there are moments when I might get a little bit frustrated if it's something related to football or I'm running out
Mhm.
of patience when I'm in a huge queue. Then, oh, that does make me a little bit stroppy. And again, I try to just listen to something to think about something else and change the topic. But yeah, I'm not a very stroppy person, to be honest. Maybe my fiance would disagree, but I'd say usually I've got a smile on my face, or at least I'm not like walking around the flat or places being like, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think that's a great outlook on life. I mean, maybe even easygoing people get in a strop sometimes, but as you said, I think the key is, your first reaction is a positive one. I think that's nice. If, yeah, giving the benefit of the doubt or um, thinking optimistically before you consider any negative option. I feel like that's a nice habit to get into to avoid unnecessary strops, perhaps.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
But
like it.
you see, that said, on Sundays, usually I am very, very, I don't know how to put it, but I'm not really a person. And what I mean by that is that if anybody tries to organize any social plans for a Sunday, it is just an immediate no. I do not want to speak to anyone. I don't want to socialize with anyone. I don't want to hang out with anyone. I don't want to do anything. And I will openly tell people this. And I'll be like, listen, if you want to organize something on Friday or Saturday, I'm all ears. I'm listening to you. I'm happy to do it. But if they try on a Sunday and if they insist, then I might get in a strops. Like, you know my boundaries. Sundays are no go, no go at all.
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like this is a good argument for a longer weekend because Sunday isn't really a weekend. It's pre-Monday, isn't it? So you really need a day before Sunday to prepare for Sunday.
Great. And do you ever get stroppy? And if so, what kind of things will put you in this bad mood?
I feel like I'm quite. I can relate to a lot of what you said. I feel like I'm quite chill and optimistic most of the time. Occasionally, maybe you can say I woke up on the wrong side of the bed or something like that, where I'm just a little bit of a grumpy mood for some reason. But I think usually it's triggered by people, which happens a lot here. People not respecting my space on the street. Whereas a classic example, I'm walking down the street, there's, a barrier on the side, so I can't move anywhere. Two people walking towards me, and, you would expect them to go single file, one behind the other, to let me pass, but they don't. They keep walking, taking up the entire path, and then, what, either run into me or expect me to move to the side and dodge them. I don't know. It happens a lot, and it doesn't ruin my day, but it gets me close to ruining the day because it's so frustrating. It's such a lack of respect. And like, if that happens like two or three times on the same walk, I might get in a bit of a strop, and then I won't really show it, but I will probably just not smile at anyone for the rest of the day.
Well, I hope it never happens 4 times in a day then. Then it's over.
As long as we don't have a podcast to record after that, I think it's fine. You won't know.
You don't know. You don't even wanna know what happened to me today. Ah!
You won't like me when I'm angry.
No, it seems like it. Awesome. Well, on that note, I think we will call it a day. We'll wrap up. And I don't know about you, Michael, but I feel like we've used like 100 different phrasal verbs, idioms, expressions, and
Yeah.
slang. So good luck to everybody listening. And if anything is unclear, please let us know in the comments. We'd be more than happy to clarify any doubts, any meanings, and the reason why we are trying to use these expressions is because maybe you won't usually hear them. And of course, we're speaking quite slowly, quite clearly. So it's not maybe so much of a challenge for you to understand most of the things we're saying, except the advanced vocabulary. So hopefully, you enjoyed this little chin wag. And yeah, maybe we could do it again sometime. So thank you, Michael. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. It's been super fun. Yeah, thank you, Lewis, and thank you everybody as well.
Awesome. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.